Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday. I'm Brooke Hash, and it is our top story here at noon. The DOJ has recommended no prison time for an ex-LMPD officer convicted in the Breonna Taylor case. That's according to a new memo just filed by the U.S. Department of Justice. Back in November, a federal jury found Brett Hankison guilty of violating Taylor's civil rights when he fired 10 shots into the side of her apartment. That was the night of the deadly 2020 police raid. Now, none of his bullets hit Taylor, but jurors determined he used excessive force with a deadly weapon. But now, in a stunning turn, DOJ attorneys with the Civil Rights Division are only recommending 3 years supervised release. It is a far cry from the many years the government was expected to push for. Under President Trump, the DOJ has seen a major shakeup in leadership and priorities. Hankison was facing up to life in prison. He has not served any jail time since that day he was first federally charged in 2022, and because of his lack of prior criminal history. The federal judge in this case will make the final decision on what time, if any, Hankison serves. That'll be at a sentencing hearing on Monday, July 21st. Well, Misty Null, the estranged wife of former Clark County Sheriff Jamie Null, is asking for a new judge in her case just weeks after taking a plea deal for theft and tax evasion charges. She was sentenced to 6 years in state custody, which came down to 1.5 years in prison and 4.5 years on probation. Null is asking the court to remove Judge Larry Medlock from the case, citing bias against herself and her family. Medlock recently scheduled a hearing to throw out Misty's guilty plea after he watched a TV interview she gave the day before, maintaining her innocence. Medlock said Null's interview contradicted statements made in court about her guilt. In this new court filing, Null claims Medlock cannot be impartial in the case, citing his behavior during Jamie Null's sentencing, including when he broke that gavel from slamming it so hard, and his actions at the Null family car auction. WHAS11 reported auctioneers brought Medlock on stage to swing a gavel to make the sale final. Well, Null is also asking for the hearing that Medlock called for to be remanded or not held. The filing argues Null was not under oath when she talked with that Louisville TV station. And finally, Misty Null is calling for Medlock's contempt order to be dismissed. Her estranged husband, Jamie, was already convicted of stealing taxpayer money last October. He's currently serving a 12-year prison sentence. When it all comes down to it, Judge Medlock will make the final determination on whether to recuse himself, according to an attorney on this case. Taking a live look at the 2nd Street Bridge in Louisville. It is the bridge of choice for more than 20,000 drivers every day who get to bypass the tolls over the river, but it does have some downsides being a near 100-year-old bridge. For the first time, residents talked to both Louisville and Southern Indiana officials about the safety of the 2nd Street Bridge as a special meeting was called. Our Alex Dieter and photojournalist Aspen Hester learned that speed on the narrow bridge is a big concern.
More than 20,000 cars drive across the toll-free 2nd Street Bridge every day. A more dangerous drive across the Ohio River, but a free one.
People just go too fast for whatever reason, and they don't look out for their own safety, let alone the safety of the other people on the bridge.
Speeding, the #1 concern for many Kentuckiana residents who take the 2nd Street Bridge, like William Reedy.
Unfortunate disregard kind of for other motorists' safety.
A growing concern, so Indiana State Representative Wendy Dantchesser brought residents and city officials from both sides of the river to talk about the safety of the bridge.
We certainly want to minimize fatalities and accidents, first and foremost. Safety is, if you can't be safe, then nothing else really matters.
The first meeting of its kind included Louisville's Public Works Director.
The issue with the 2nd Street Bridge isn't just a Louisville issue, it affects all of us.
Representative Dantchesser said that people began sounding the alarm after the terrifying moments last March, when semi-truck driver Sidney Thomas crashed and dangled over the bridge for 40 minutes before being rescued. And just over the past 3 weeks, 2 people have died in crashes on the bridge. Officials say speed is the factor for both. Some solutions mentioned in the forum include directing larger vehicles like semis into other routes, increasing speed enforcement, and going from 4 lanes down to 3, which has already been tested.
When the semi ran off the bridge last year, we dropped a lane. We went down to 3 lanes, and to the best of my knowledge, there were no accidents on that bridge.
Because the 2nd Street Bridge is owned by the state, any changes to the bridge have to be approved by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
Speed just has to be a part of that.
Two states divided by a river, but coming together to find a solution for the bridge that connects them. In Clarksville, Alex Dieterer, WHAS11 on your side.
Representative Dan Chester said the meeting was a way to start documenting what people are interested in seeing, but the conversations still need to keep happening. A tornado warning issued yesterday, but it was by a town in southern Indiana, not the National Weather Service. And the tornado itself was considered to be so brief and small, it's called an EFU, a term we've never heard around here before. Our Jose Alonso and photojournalist Levi Hammer explain.
A tornado.
Caught on camera. A summer tornado in southern Indiana.
Can we get tornadoes in July and August? Yes, I bet that's very rare.
WHAS 11's extreme weather specialist, John Gordon, calling this a unique weather event.
Look at it. That's spinning, ain't it? Yeah.
The National Weather Service in Indianapolis deeming this an EFU tornado.
They saw rotation on the video. It was observed. A tornado, don't forget, is a rotating column of air with contact with the ground, but they found no damage. So they did something very unusual. EFU, the enhanced Fujita, the rating scale, U meaning unknown, because they couldn't see any damage.
It also means the twister was so weak, the National Weather Service did not issue a tornado warning, but they did conduct a survey around 10:31 in the morning. This map shared on X shows the tornado just south of Seymour. Officials say it touched down for less than a minute.
It could happen in a field, but I saw where it's at. It's got corn in there, but they didn't see any of the corn down. You got to remember, there was very, very weak wind shear, and it had a hard time spinning all the way to the ground. It was a very minimal storm.
Gordon previously led the National Weather Service in Louisville and says this weak rotation did not call for a warning. And EFU tornadoes like this one are not common in Kentuckiana.
They do this in the plains, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Texas, because they can't see anything. In this part of the woods, you usually get some damage, trees, power lines, even corn vegetation. But the friends up in Indianapolis, they didn't find any.
Although it looks scary on camera. Thankfully, no one was hurt. In Jackson County, Jose Alonso, WHAS 11 on your side.
Gordon also said Congress gives the National Weather Service the power to issue an official warning. For those of you who saw a tornado warning on social media, Gordon also said that came from a private company that does not have that kind of authority. It is so interesting. We love John Gordon, Matthew, because he's like, we saw corn. It was out in the field. Didn't get touched, though.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, perfect explanation of it and how, just those EFUs are, just weak, but, always got to be on the lookout.
Something there.
Yeah.
Are we in for anything like that today?
Yeah, not necessarily in for anything like that today, but we will likely see some strong storms possible. The bigger threat we are tracking is some heavy rain, which could result in some localized flooding. But right now, also, we got the heat and humidity. Current temperatures right now throughout the area, upper 80s in most spots. Further up north, lower 80s in Paoli, Mitchell 82, right in Louisville, 89 degrees. What about those feel-like temperatures? Yeah, crossover into the triple digits. We're already at 102 in Louisville, 101 in Lanesville, Shepherdsville at 101 as well. So it is extremely hot outside with those feel-like temperatures. And I talked about some of those weather headlines. Yeah, we'll have that storm chance possible as we head towards the late afternoon, evening hours, and also flash flood watch as well. And also seasonable heat wave likely on the way for next week. So I talked about the flash flood possibility. Starting to see a few storms pop up just north of Louisville into Madison and Seymour, but overall just seeing some general thunderstorms out there for us as we go towards this week. Also, we do have some of those alerts that include a flash flood watch that does include Jefferson County and most of our area. So I'll be tracking out what you can expect over the next several hours coming up in just a few minutes. We'll send it back over to you, Brooke.
Matthew, thank you. Kentucky State Police identified the trooper shot in Sunday's violent string of events in Lexington that killed 2 innocent women. KSP said Trooper Jude Ramillion, a 3-year veteran of the department, remains in the hospital and considered stable. KSP leading the investigation. A historic college is getting new life after being Closed for 8 years, the Beauregard College of Art and Music was the first fine arts school for African American students here in Louisville back in the early 20th century, but it closed in 2017. Louisville Metro government announced a grant to fix up that building in 2021 so it could again become a valuable community asset that continues its original intent of creating art and music spaces for kids.